Shalom, shalom. This is one of my new teachings here, Basics of Learning Hebrew. I'm going to start with something that I've heard several teachers of Hebrew say, and I guess you can add me to the list because I'm saying it now. Two basic major things to know. These are basic foundations of the Hebrew language. Is Hebrew roots, by which I don't mean the movement, the church movement, Hebrew roots. What I mean is the roots of Hebrew words and the way that those roots conjugate. Those two things will give you at least 80% of the language. And once you've mastered those two things, or at least gotten the basics mastered, it's just adding piece by piece to round it out. But these two are central. These two are key to learning the Hebrew language, the roots of words and conjugations. So what I suggest is one of the best ways to learn Hebrew is to actually go to the Hebrew scripture and just take it word by word and do a study, and you'll learn. So here I'm going to take you to a screen I already have open here. My computer. This is the interlinear Bible, Hebrew and English. And here you have verse 1, Genesis 1:1. The English is on the right over here in the beginning. And on the left here, you have the corresponding Hebrew word, which is Bereshit. Bereshit is the first word in the scripture. And there you have the Hebrew. So it's helpful to learn the Hebrew alphabet and the vowel markings so that when you're looking at this, you already have that mastered. But what we want to look at here is identifying the root. So I'm going to skip a few steps. I'll show you that later. But here's the root of this word is Resh, Aleph, Shin, Rosh, which is head. If you're in an anatomy class and you're doing parts of the human body, the part of the human body that we call a head in English is Rosh in Hebrew. It's also a Hebrew letter, Resh. You also see it in Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year. So Rosh, this is the root word. And what you have on the front here is a prefix. The letter Bet is a common prefix that's added onto a Hebrew word. In this case, it means in. So in the beginning. And then this last part, the Yod and the Tav, that's the suffix. So on the front of the word is called a prefix, and on the end of the word is called the suffix. And what the suffix is telling us here is the conjugation. And here I drew out a picture with the word Bereshit, color-coded with the root in the middle, prefix on the front, and a suffix on the end. So back to our whiteboard. Roots, Hebrew roots. All Hebrew words are broken down into a root, and almost all of the time that root is going to be 3 consonant letters. So you have a 3-letter root that makes really hundreds of words often by the time it's conjugated out to its different forms. Once in a while you'll find a 2-consonant parent root, but that's rare. For the basics, just learn that you can boil all Hebrew words down to a root. And the first thing you want to do when you're doing a word study and studying scripture, studying Hebrew, is get into the habit of identifying the root. And as you identify the root, you'll begin to see the language unfold right before you. So as I said, this first word, the Bereshit, the root is the Resh, the Aleph, and the Shin. And the way that we conjugate things, we'll get into that as we go. But the way we conjugate things is by changing the vowels, maybe adding a letter or subtracting a letter, adding a prefix or a suffix. We do similar things in English. For example, if I take the English word book, right? And I want to say plural, I add an S. Now, what would you call that S that I added to the word book to change it from singular to plural? That's your suffix added on the end of the word. What we don't have as often in English, we have it occasionally, but is the prefix. Hebrew makes a lot of use of the prefix, and that's why oftentimes you'll see that the Hebrew has less words for a verse than the English does, and that's because the prefixes, the conjunctions, and, the, in, those kind of words that are separate in English are actually added on as a prefix on the front of the Hebrew word. And that's why oftentimes Hebrew has less words in it. So this concludes part one. I'll pick up where I left off in part two. Shalom, shalom.